Hi there, and welcome back to our communication series. Today we're going to expand on the communication process. As I said earlier, simply passing words is not communicating effectively. It's just passing words. And the job isn't done until the other person understands the message as you intended him or her to understand it, or to get it, so to speak. So today we're going to talk about communicating with your whole self, your heart and your soul, or to coin a phrase, your mind, body, and spirit. Now, I'm not going to talk to you about all the roadblocks and barriers to hearing each other. If we were together, I'd be giving you a handout, and that's just what I'm going to do. At the end, you can look for the PDF below the movie, and you can take a look at the laundry list of barriers. But today, we're going to focus on active and attentive listening. So let's go on. Communications get sidetracked in the many ways that it does, for the many reasons that it does. Some are beyond our control, but there are others that we can affect with modest and little risk, little effort and risk. We assume there's no need to talk, and that's one of the most important barrier to effective listening. Perhaps most important explanation for failed communication in relationships is the common assumption that there's just no reason to discuss the particular matter. The other reason is that we communicate in one direction. We tell people. Even when we do see the need to communicate, we often assume that it simply means telling something to somebody else. For communication to be effective, it needs to be two-way, though. There must not only be a transmission, but also a reception. Listening is essential. The flip side to this is that sometimes we talk so much that we discourage the other person from listening. And then we send mixed messages. To be effective, communication should be consistent. What I say today should agree with what I said yesterday and what I will say tomorrow. What you heard me telling someone else should fit with what I told you. My words should be consistent with each other and with my actions. Mixed messages undermine each other and prevent effective communication. So then we will want to know what the purpose of communication is. Why are you listening? What are you listening for? How much attention am I giving to the conversation? All of these are factors. Am I concentrating? Am I neutral? Am I distracted? What's my response to the other person? Am I reflecting content, feelings? We'll talk about some of this later. Yeah, I know it's a lot of work, but it's going to be valuable and it's going to be worthwhile, so stay with me. Whenever we consider listening as a possible method for dealing with others, we seldom think of it being a particularly active form of behavior. But in order to listen effectively, to understand others' intent, we need to attempt to enter the other person's frame of reference. This is accomplished by listening actively, setting aside judgment and stereotypes, and making statements that reflect your own thoughts and feelings. At the root of these practices is listening to yourself. This is a prerequisite to listening to others. It's often an effective means of dealing with problems. When we're most excited, angry, and demanding, we're least able to understand our own feelings and attitudes. Yet in dealing with the problems of others, it becomes most important to be sure of one's own position, values, and needs. If someone touches off feelings within you that tend to block your attempts to listen and understand, begin listening to yourself. It's important for you to recognize and understand the meanings and feelings aroused in you by the other person. Feel yourself first, then the other person. Okay, so attentive listening is listening without interruption or judgment and encouraging the other person to talk and blow off steam. This is done by nonverbal encouragement such as eye contact, nodding your head, saying uh-huh, that kind of thing. Other door openers are, would you like to talk about it, or then what happened? Asking open-ended questions is another way. Your task is in listening is to help the other person talk and say honestly what's bothering him or her. So you can accomplish this by asking open-ended questions that can't be answered with a yes or a no. Since the purpose of a question is to learn something about the other person, phrase the question so the person will tell you something. Open-ended questions are something like the following. How do you feel about that? What do you think about that? What else can you tell me? Or simply, tell me more. Active and attentive listening is responding in a way that adds to others' understanding of the problem and their feelings by reflecting that to them what you heard them say or your perception of what you're feeling. You then become a mirror for them. And this requires true empathy and comes across phony if it's fake. You know, if you're faking it, it just really isn't going to get you anywhere. So active and attentive listening is all about being real. Paraphrasing might be something like, now let me see if I understand what you said, and so forth. So listening first and acknowledging what you hear, even if you don't agree with it, before expressing your experience or point of view is important. In order to get more of your conversation partner's attention in tense situations, pay attention first. Listen and give a brief restatement of what you've heard, especially feelings, before you express your own needs or position. The kind of listening recommended here separates acknowledging from approving or agreeing. Acknowledging another person's thoughts and feelings doesn't have to mean that you approve of or agree with that person's actions or way of experiencing, or that you will do whatever someone asks. By listening and then repeating back in your own words the essence and feeling of what you've just heard from the speaker's point of view, you allow the other person to feel the satisfaction of being understood. That's a major human need. Listening responsibly is always worthwhile, as it's a way of letting people know that you care about them. Our conversation partners don't automatically know how well we've understood them, and they may not be very good at asking for confirmation. So when a conversation is tense or difficult, it's even more important to listen first and then acknowledge what you've heard. Otherwise, your chances of being heard by the other person may be very poor. Okay, to summarize, as we get to the end of this program on communication, I want to emphasize one thing. In learning to better coordinate our life activities with the life activities of others, we do well to resist two very popular but terrible models of communication: arguing a case in court and debating. In courts and debates, each side tries to make its own points and listens to the other side only to tear down the other side's points of view. Since the debaters and attorneys rarely have to reach agreement or get anything done together, it doesn't seem to matter how much ill will their conversational style generates. But most of us are in a very different situation. We probably spend most of our lives trying to arrange agreement and cooperative action. So we need to be concerned about engaging people, not defeating them. In business and family life, too, the person we defeat today will probably be the person whose cooperation we need tomorrow. So the bottom line to find a middle ground, you need to compete and collaborate to keep your life and your business healthy and moving forward. There's a big side benefit to listening to others. It sets the foundation for trust, and others will be much more willing to listen to us. We teach people how to treat us in this way.